Oh, um, yes, a place they boasted about it. I think it was supposed to be was called Christmas Cove or something like that.
Yeah, Christmas Cove. That's right.
And we went into a place, and we liked it very much. We thought this was very nice, and we were telling everybody about it. We found out afterwards it wasn't Christmas Cove; it was another one they'd
Oh
gone
no!
But it had a yacht club in it, and we were going ashore to have some showers, and it was a shower where you had to put coins in. There was one in the men's room and one in the ladies' room. So we got all the quarters that we had out, and they took some quarters and we took some quarters. And we went in the ladies' room and we put the coins in the shower, and we got partly showered, and then it stopped, so we ran and put some more coins in. But then we got our hair all soaked up, and the coins ran out, and we were left with soapy hair.
Oh.
So we had to go over to the sink and stick our heads in the sink and run the water over our soapy hair to get it out. But it was a pretty nice place, and they had a very nice ice cream parlor with homemade ice cream and all kinds of flavors.
Now, what's the story about you and the Rock up in Maine? Now, was that Penobscot Bay when you were a little girl, or 16 or so?
Oh, well, it's the summer I spent at Booth Bay Harbor.
Booth Bay Harbor, that was it.
The summer I was 16, my high school teacher who taught art at Classical High ran the Cross Art School in Booth Bay Harbor, and it ran in the summertime, and he went up for the summer, and he invited me to go, and I would work in the kitchen of this art colony, and I would get my room and board and free art lessons, and that was about. I ended up working in the morning and helping with the breakfast and the dishes and making beds, and I had lunch, and then it was time to go sketching for the afternoon, and he took us to different places, and we were sketching and pencil mostly then at the beginning of the summer. And there were quite a few other people there. There was, from Rhode Island, there was Gordon Lawson and John Cobb and a couple of girls, and then we met a lot of local people. These young people all talked to each other, and they had photography, and there were more students. This school was a little passé. It wasn't at its height anymore, and there weren't too many people there, but the food was good, and I had this room up on the second floor. The place had been closed all winter, and it was very musty, and I didn't like sleeping in this musty area. So there was a little place out on the lawn that had a roof over it, and it had 4 open sides. So I bought some netting at the store, and I tacked it all up around this little place, and it had 2 bunks inside. I don't know what it was supposed to be, whether it was a bunkhouse, but so I took my mattress from up on the second floor, and I slept out there all by myself. When my mother found out I was out there in the top of the hill, from all the woods all by myself, she didn't find out till the end of the summer, and I didn't think anything about it. She darn near died. She didn't think I was out there where anybody could walk in and attack me, and I never thought a thing about it.
Right.
But all this group of this art colony was at the top of the hill, and you could walk up from town, from Booth Bay. And all the young people used to gather there at night, and they'd all come up, and they'd say, "Evelyn, what are we going to do tonight?" And I'd say, "Oh, it's Saturday night. They got movies in town." "Okay." We all walked down the hill, and the rule was I had to be back by 11 o'clock. That was, my art teacher sent that up, Mr. Randall, and he told them, "Evelyn has to be back by 11. So there was always somebody. The whole group had to walk from town and walk. Nobody had a car, and walk me up the hill. We all walked up the hill talking. And they all came after supper to come up and see what Evelyn decided for the night. And then we decided to, I said, "Well, we're swimming tonight out in the harbor." And it was dark. And there,
It was cold there.
Yes, it was cold, but we were all young. We didn't notice it. And the ones that had been there before knew that of this rock out in the middle of the harbor that never came above the surface. You couldn't see it. You had to know where it was. So the first one that would swim out and stand on the rock, and then the rest of us would swim out and talk standing on the rock. And then we'd get cold. It'd be time to go back. I don't remember how we changed out of into our bathing suits. Maybe we went up the hill in them, but
Right?
we all had fun, and there was phosphorus there, and we'd slap our bathing suits and make the phosphorus show.
Now, was the all these other people, were the other students, or
or they worked in town at the.
it's all the young people in the town?
Yeah, there'd be a photography shop, and somebody would work, and it was a summer colony, so people came from around different places, and the young people all got in the habit of a meeting, and we'd decide what we're going to do for the night. And I was the queen of the ball.
Oh, nice.
They said, "Oh, what's Evelyn going to do tonight?" And then we all did what Evelyn wanted to do tonight.
Now, when you had the question of, what is it, tuberculosis? Is that one of the reasons that
Well,
you went
you-
up there?
When you
No,
that
this
when
was
she
entirely
little.
separate. This is when I was 16 and in good health. And
I see. So you were, how old were you when you were
At the other
diagnosed?
camp.
Yeah, at the other camp.
oh, that was, I think I was 9 the first year. They gave Schick tests in school, and I had a Schick test, which is to find out if you are tubercular. And I didn't pass the Schick test. So my mother took me down to North Main Street where the office of, let's see, what do you call the organization that was in charge of tuberculosis? I don't remember, but
Red Cross, or
no, it wasn't the Red Cross. It was a separate organization. And they had a cross with 2 crossbows on it. Instead of one, like the Jesus cross has one, it would have 2 red
cross
crosses.
members, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
up above. That was the signal.
Yeah.
And they had a very nice old doctor named Dr. Pinkney, who was gray-haired and very good with all the young children. And I had to go down and get examined, and I had these cells, and they weren't contagious, but it's what you call a preventorium.
Right.
And out in Narragansett Bay, up where it's been filled into land and now is a point, and I think it's where the Save the Bay has their new office on this,
Right
on this
near
point of land.
Port of Providence.
There was an island there, and it was called Sunshine Island, and they had a preventorium there with beds, and children were kept out there. But at the time that I had to go to the preventorium, I don't remember where it was. It was out way in the country, out towards Hoxie somewhere. And there's nobody around that I can ask now. My parents used to come out, but I spent the summer there. And when you got there, all these kids were running around. All the youngest ones had nothing but khaki shorts on. And in those days, nobody went outside in just khaki shorts.
Right.
So you were kind of embarrassed, and you looked at all these kids running around. I wouldn't go out like that, naked like that. That's
Like going on in your underwear now.
I'd be embarrassed. So they kept you in bed for 2 days straight, and you were so bored with staying in bed, you finally decided you'd put on the khaki shorts and go out with everybody else. And you got out of bed pretty early in the morning, something like 6 o'clock, and you were shoved outdoors, and it was pretty chilly in the early morning. And some mornings we were allowed a sweater, but the rest of the time you just went out the door the way you were and shivered along with everybody else, because the theory at that time was that you got sunshine and keep you cool
Right.
so the germs don't develop. And then the ones who were new there, you had to come in and rest for an hour before lunch. And you played in the playground most of the day, and they didn't have a lot of games or anything for like an expensive camp would be, and they didn't have things for you to do. They had swings and a couple of slides, And we made up our own games and entertained each other. And then in the afternoon, they had a swim program, and you could go for a swim, and you were watching.
How was the food?
The food was very healthy. As you walk from the playground back to where well, it was, I don't know what you call it. It was a building where all the cribs we had children young enough to be in cribs, and the beds were. So as you were walking up the street from the playground, it was a very narrow road, or a private road, that just led to they would hail you over from the cookhouse. They had a big house that the meals were served in. They were cooked and served in a separate place. And as you're walking up the street, they'd have a great big burlap bag full of green beans. And somebody would call you over, come on over, and you'd walk over, and they'd sit you down and have you break the ends off the green beans. And they cooked big pots of them. And you only had brown bread. We hated that. Oh, brown bread. Everybody had white bread at home. But Bond Bread made this brown bread, and that's what we got to eat. And they alternated the two cereals. One morning we had cornmeal mush, and the next morning we had oatmeal. They alternated them. And the oatmeal was all right, but the cornmeal mush was cooked in such great big pots that they couldn't help but make lumps. It was lumpy.
Oh.
And I hated cornmeal ever since. And about everybody hated the cornmeal, but we tolerated the oatmeal. That was reasonable.
I'm sorry to say that tomorrow morning we're having oatmeal. We're having cornmeal mush.
And then on Sunday night, they have gingerbread, and that was supposed to be a big treat, except that the ginger wasn't mixed in properly, and every now and then you get a lump of ginger that would just tingle your tongue in an unpleasant way.
Right, a little too much spice.
And Sundays, your parents were allowed to come and visit or you could have visitors from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So we all waited very expectantly, and most of the children had visitors. They were all people from Providence and around. Wasn't anybody from out of state, so almost everybody had visitors. So my poor parents must have ruined their whole summer. I never thought of it after. I didn't think of it till after I grew up. From 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock every Sunday, they were out at the Preventorium to spend their time with me. So that must have stopped them from going much of any place.
Right.
So the first year, I wasn't well enough to go back to school. I had to stay there for October. And my birthday came in October. And by October, all those who were well enough to go to day school were sent back home. There weren't that many of us left. But there was probably 100 kids there.
Wow.
So we had either 200 or 300 this summer. And by then there was still about 100 kids. And my mother's group at church decided they would do something about a birthday party for somebody down and they decided to throw a party for me. So my mother and the women made all these favors for the girls. They had bought these little celluloid dolls, and when they had their monthly meeting, they would make little clothes for them. The dolls were very inexpensive, but making the clothes probably took a lot of time. And
right?
they did that at their meetings to entertain. Oh, and then I think they also, you take an oatmeal box and you cut it in half, the round oatmeal box, and you cut it in half, and then you cut across the end, and half of the round part at the end you glued onto the box, so it rocked on the cradle part, but then the other half you turned and it stopped it from rocking you glued it, and it stopped it from rocking too fast, so you made a little cradle.
Wow.
And then you took crepe paper and you covered it all over, real pretty, and you put the doll in. So everybody had a gift for the birthday, and I guess we had a big birthday cake, and it was cut I don't remember if there was ice cream. And the boys got some little favor, but I don't remember what it was. I was just impressed with the little doll and the cradle and
Aw.
all the work these women had put in to do it for all these children.
Oh, that's really
That
nice.
is nice.
Didn't they make you brush your teeth with soap or something?
Oh, and the bathroom had a large trough like you'd have for animals. The sink went about 15 feet long, and above it, about 1.5 feet high, was a pipe, and out of the pipe, water squirt on either side of the sink. It came down. So we stood in a long line on both sides to brush our teeth from this water coming down. And most of the kids didn't have toothpaste. We used a cake of soap.
Right.
Everybody passed the same cake of soap up and down, rubbed your toothbrush in it. And my mother used to wash our mouths out with soap if you said a bad word.
That's what I was thinking.
But a lot of these kids came from poor families and they didn't have toothpaste, so they were in a habit of washing their teeth with soap. So we passed the cake of soap up and down, and I got used to it.
Is that what you're washing it with this weekend too? Your teeth with soap?
And you said you went there 2 summers?
Yeah, the second summer I had to go back. The first summer I went to school, I stayed till October, and then I was allowed to go home and live at home and go to, and then I went to fresh air school. Fresh air, there was a room in different schools that they left the windows open all day. And you came to school in your jackets, and you stayed there, and you stayed all day for lunch, which most of them didn't do. It was elementary school, and they went home for lunch. But we stayed home, and we stayed there, and we were served a hot lunch. And we wore our jackets all day in this room with all the windows open
Right.
to give us the fresh air. So
Hmm.
I stayed at fresh air school. I had to take the bus to get there. There was only one in every certain number of schools across the city. So I took the bus and went to fresh air school. And it's funny, later on I met some of these kids in high school. We'd say, "Oh, Temple Street." And we recognized somebody from the fresh air room. Because you got to know each other pretty
well, right? I
Because
was
you
gonna
stayed
say.
all day. And I can remember a doctor in East Providence. He's dead now, so I remembered, "Hey, Oswald, how are you doing?" "Yeah, get to be a doctor." He grew up very well and did well. And you'd see these people every once in a while that you remembered.
That's great. We also have the sunset. And a guy that ran aground that's been trying to get off here the whole time we've been talking. He spun the boat around. We'll see if he makes it.